Well, hello there. Welcome to my first live stream. Um, what I'd like to have this stream be about, to start at least, is really focused on PowerShell stuff. I've got a couple projects that I'd like to work on and just thought, hey, let's try the streaming thing out. So that's what this is. I'm hoping to stream at least once a week for an hour during the day. I don't have a set schedule for that yet. I need to sort of do a few ad hoc ones and figure out what days work and what time during the day. But hopefully this is the start of frequent streams. So I'd say let's go ahead and get started. I'll introduce the project that I think I want to work on real quick. It's going to be this my top 8 here. So the idea behind this is a friend of mine from work gave me this idea to create for your GitHub profile to recreate the old MySpace top 8. A section in your profile where you can sort of rank other GitHub accounts and users and things like that in a top 8 fashion, and you can reorganize them, move people up, demote people, whatever. And I don't know if I'm going to require that one of them has to be Tom, but we'll get to that later. My thought is to make this a GitHub action. That seems to be the easiest way to add automation to your GitHub repository, obviously. So there's a lot of research and learning that I'm going to have to do for this. We'll have the action pull a Docker image that has PowerShell installed, and then I'm assuming use the checkout feature to get your profile repository, scan the README for a start and ending section, so I know where you want your top 8 to show up, and do some magical fluff from there. So what I mean by that is, so in my repository, I have an action that scans for blog posts, and that action looks for these two lines. So blog start, blog end, and the action does the rest in between those. So I'll have to figure out how exactly to do that. So there's going to be some research involved, and hopefully it's fun. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to open up code here. Again, I have nothing written for this. So this is from scratch. We'll learn together. I think I need to install Docker as well. So maybe I should fire that up quick. I can install it right from winget. Very cool. So while that's going, let's open up GitHub, my topic. I don't think there's anything else. So that must be this install. Oh, okay. I should have launched terminal as admin. So okay, that'll finish. So literally all I have is a README with a couple things I was brainstorming last night. Things I'm going to have to look into, some caveats I might run into that I'll need some research for. So the first thing is learning Docker syntax. I need to be able to figure out how to pull an image, a Docker image, and run it. And then whatever PowerShell script I create that's going to do the, not monitoring, but check your README for the sections, paste custom markdown for however we're going to make this look, this top 8. We have to paste that in there. And I assume I can do that all in one script, one PowerShell script. So get the Docker image either pulled or started, inject the script in, and then somehow that script needs to run in the context of the profile repository. And I'm assuming that the actions work together. So for some other GitHub Actions, if I go to my profile README, for example, I have a couple workflows. First of all, they run in this .github folder that you have to have in the repository. And then in here is a workflows, and poof, you have a YAML file. Here's the blog post one that I use. And it uses another action called checkout. So I have to figure out, in my case, I would want an end user, when using my my custom action, they would also have to say, yep, I want to check out this repository. Then I want to call upon this MySpace top 8 action. So somehow these must get placed in the same spot in the Docker container or something. I don't know how the environment looks, but I'll be able to play with that and test that out locally using Docker and everything. Looks like that's Docker is still installing, so that's cool. And then, yeah, so with my action, same thing. I would need to, by default, the action is going to be updating your profile README. So I can hard code that in. Basically, it's always going to be username, the repository name, which is the same thing, and then README. It has to be that README file. The file that I would like to provide it with is the file to, like, just a text file that has 8 names in it. Just your top 8 in whatever order it'll show up. You know, the first one is number 1. So that's, I'd like to give it the file, and then the action reads in the file, reads in the people in the file, and, you know, does magic to write that markdown back to your profile. But again, I need to figure out how the environment looks after you use a checkout action and then invoking my action, however that looks. I'll just have to figure that out. Okay, Docker's installed finally. Maybe I have to restart PowerShell. Docker desktop. Do I have to? I wonder if I have to just run it one time before I get the CLI. Oh, okay. I think I'm gonna have to reboot this box real quick. Let me just change this. I'm just gonna restart this PC real quick. It's a Shadow PC. So shadow.tech is a cloud PC that you can basically rent. You rent a cloud computer, and it's worked out pretty well. I really like using it, and so I'm just restarting that box real quick. It shouldn't take that long. These are pretty fast. Yeah, because I don't want to interact with the GUI. I want to use the Docker CLI, obviously. Okay, we're still waiting on the reboot. There we go, rebooted. So I'm starting this up real quick. So how's everybody doing? It's early. My coffee's still trying to work. So this will be interesting. We're almost back up. I know for a fact that what I'm trying to do can probably be done much easier in other languages, but I want to use PowerShell. So it'll just be a learning experience. And yeah, I don't want to budge on that. I want to use PowerShell. I know that there's tons of Python libraries and Go libraries where like the whole GitHub API and everything's already defined and laid out, and you can use those, but I would rather just figure out a way to use this in PowerShell. Incomplete, it's installed. Okay, cool. I don't care. And I think I am gonna pull a Linux image that has PowerShell installed. Why does this keep coming? So I am gonna have Docker in the Linux configuration. You can change in Docker Where are the settings at? You can tell it that you can either run Linux containers or Windows containers, but you can't run them both at the same time, apparently. So you have to like restart Docker in the Windows version or the Linux version, as far as I understand it. I haven't used Docker too much. Restart. I don't know why I'm getting all these update messages. Yeah, install. Let's run PowerShell as an admin this time, so I don't run into any weird issues. Maybe I don't have WSL2 even installed. Oh, okay, so I have to, okay. Step 3, enable virtual machine, yep, obviously. Okay, I'll have to download this quick. Done. Let's run it. This doesn't just work out of the box. Come on. Okay, I already set the version, but that was before I ran that. So let's redo that. Cool. Step 6. I don't think I need to install any of that. Restart Docker. Can I get here? Yeah, reset because I haven't done anything. Maybe I do need an image first. Like I need to install Ubuntu. I can do that from WinGet as well. Yeah, let me make this just a little bigger for y'all. I believe I said y'all. Okay. Yeah, let's just go with Ubuntu. Because why not? Nope. My top 8. Oh, I added adding list of stuffs to do. Cool. This list, I hadn't pushed this up to GitHub. The things I think I'll need to figure out. So, can I restart Docker now? And will it not yell at me? Do I need to reboot again or something? Oh, I do have to enable that in BIOS. I'll have to look into that later. I don't know how to get into the BIOS of a virtual machine that I don't have right in front of me. So I'll look into that later. But I think what we could work on now is the PowerShell to look at a file and find the start and stop, whatever pattern I'm going to say that the action has to have, this line in it. So yeah, only these here. So let's make let's do this in code. Okay, new file. So this will be start top I don't know. We can change this later. Let me make this bigger. It's probably really small. There we go. Okay, so what I'm going to have to do first is this will have to accept a file path from the action. I'll just write this as a function. There's a couple things that I always include at the beginning of my functions. So this is just some templating. I can explain all this sometime. If anyone has any questions, what's commandlet binding mean? I think I can. Oh, that's not the one I wanted. I thought there was a parameter snippet, parameter path. There we go. So this comes with a bunch of defaults of it's mandatory, comes from the pipeline, blah, blah, blah. I want this to be, let's just call this path. That's a pretty standard parameter that professional commandlets use. I'm saying this is a string. It can't be empty. You have to provide it. And the action, whenever I figure that out, will provide the path to the profile readme like this. So in my case, I guess in here, just to test with, I could probably clone my profile just to have a readme to play around with. And I'll need that later. So process get content path. So I'm adding this here. I'm going to save this just as a test to prove that it works. So if we, yeah, okay. So if we look here, now we have our repository and my GitHub profile cloned repository. So if we look here, inside here is an actual profile readme that we can play around with. What I'm saying is to test that this correctly reads in the path and everything, just show me the content of the path that you're going to provide this file. So I'm going to say start path. And again, my goal is to figure out how to provide this dynamically from the action. Yep, there we go. So this works. Now we can continue to play around with this. I'm going to use the blog post format as my template, just because I've already got a start line and an end line, and we can change the requirements and how that looks later. But for now, that's a great way to test with this. So I'm going to say profile content equals all this, the text that makes up my README. And then I want to, PowerShell has a built-in string filtering, but it's kind of funky to play around with. I haven't gotten the hang of it yet. So profile content, and we can pipe that into select string, and you give it a pattern. And this is a regex, a regular expression. So I want it to look for this pattern. And in this case, I want it to look for a line that looks exactly like this. So I could say start pattern equals this. And I think just for now, let's just try that. There we go. So this is select string showing me the line that it found that matched this pattern. Now it just happened to match the whole line, but if I took this off, let's say, and reran this, this line matched it, and it showed me I matched all these characters, but this is the whole line. So that's why this is highlighted completely, because we matched the whole line. If I don't want it to highlight, I think I can say raw, and it will just show me the line, which this doesn't break anything. It's just formatting for humans, but I don't actually need that as far as PowerShell is concerned. But I don't think select string has a ton of data that it puts on it. I think it puts like what the line number that it found it on. So I'm going to pipe this into select object, and I want this wildcard. I want every property that the select string commandlet puts out. And if you're new, this is a little deceptive because select string has a ton of properties and methods behind the scenes, but by default, it only shows the property that just has the text. But I want it to give me everything. So here an example. This is everything that select string generates. So here's the line, the pattern it used to match it. And this is what I'm interested in. What's the line number that this starts? And that's going to help me just alter the lines in the README between my start and end, and don't touch the rest of the profile. Obviously, we don't want to break. We don't want to break everything else in the profile. We just want to edit whatever start and end section. Like here, if I post a new blog post, I just want it to change this list. Behind the scenes, there's the start and there's the end that's commented out, but I don't want it to break the formatting of any of this stuff. So I only want it to mess with code in between those. So we found the start. I would say we can wrap this in parentheses, and I can just address the line number. So I can say start line equals, and that will do this, find the pattern, and then grab the line number that select string is giving me. In this case, it's line 30. And for what I'm going to use this for, I actually need to subtract 1 from this. And I'll explain this in a second. Yeah, I'll leave this off for now, and I'll explain what I'm doing in a sec. Let's copy this and just say end pattern. How does this actually end? Oh, it just says end here. So end. I want this to say end. End line should match the end pattern. Give me the line number. So I'm just writing some output here. Right now, this won't output anything. There's no more output to the screen when I run this. So I'm just going to write some output here. So let's say start line is start line. End line is end line. Save this. Rerun it. Okay, so my blog block in my README is from lines 30 to 36. What you can do in PowerShell, the content that comes back from get content is an array of lines. So get content README. So it looks like it just spewed back a whole single string, but if I say text equals all that, oops, I didn't do that. Text. I want to reference the 0 item in this array of lines. So really, the first line is that. So this is why I have to subtract 1 from these, because if I were to say profile content at the index of the start line number, start line, and that's going to put the number in there. If I did 30, that's not the start line. This is the line after the start line, because this gives me the file line number, but we're going to be using these as arrays, and that shifts it from the start of the file being line number 1 to being line number 0. So you can see here, if I reference line 29, array item 29, I actually get the start line. So when I'm grabbing the line number, I'm just going to do myself a favor ahead of time. I could rename this and say start index, and that might make more sense later when I'm referencing that. So I'm going to say line number -1, and just to be safe, I'm going to wrap that in parentheses as well, because you never know. Parentheses and -1, -1, and parentheses. Start index, end index. So now if I were to run this, it'll say start line 29, because we're subtracting 1. End line 35, I believe. I don't remember. And then it'll show me the line that start line, that index that I'm looking for. If I rerun this script here, there we go. So now it's correctly, the line number is 30, but in the index of PowerShell, the way I'm handling the data, I need to reference 29 and 35. So I guess I could duplicate this and say, just to prove, start and end. And what I can do here is I can grab a range from PowerShell. So I want to grab the lines in profile content, which is, the content of the file that we're giving it. And so here's my start index, and go all the way to and include the end index. So this is like, give me a range from 29 to 35. And so now this will spit out start line, end line, and the start index, the end index, and all of the lines that are in between. So here's how I grab that whole chunk of just the profile. I probably, what I'll have to do is, no, I guess I could do it this way. What I'll have to figure out next is how to just replace these lines later on with whatever markdown, or however we're going to create the visuals for this top 8. I'll have to spit that code back in here. My worry is sometimes that might be, a block of code that's 4 lines or a block of code that's 18 lines. I'll need to properly sandwich that, or put that in the middle and sandwich the original profile that was, before and after this section back to being before and after. So that's something I've never really messed with. I've dealt with editing the end of a file, but not replacing content that's right in the middle. I guess I guess I could use the replace. PowerShell has a text remove, replace. And so this can replace individual characters. Or I wonder if I could replace, search for a string that's this long. Exactly, because I can grab what the string was before. And if the action needs to change anything, replace this whole paragraph with this whole paragraph. And then I don't have to worry about inserting a specific amount of line numbers or anything. It'll just take care of that for me. But we'll worry about that later, I think. Can I call replace here? Yeah, I can. So I want to replace in this whole paragraph. Let's replace any hyphens with just a bunch of ats, obviously, so that is visual. And I don't know if that changes the content in this variable or if it just spits out what this would change and profile content stays the same. So I'm just going to save that, rerun the script, and see if we get any output. See, it does just output, but if I were to call content again here, it would be the original. Yeah, let me make this bigger so it makes more sense. Oh boy. So here's the line numbers. Just calling, can't scroll up there. Just calling this, it takes this content, clones it, does the replace, and spits that out. But it doesn't actually alter what's in this original variable. And we've just proved that with, here is what it replaced, and it just spat it out for us. But if I invoke the original, go to that section, it didn't actually, the original stayed the same. If I wanted to overwrite the original, I would just say profile content equals the output of this profile content replace. But I don't want to do that because it only outputs this section. I guess what I would have to do is, instead of indexing here, I would want it to output the whole file. Let me copy this. I've never done this before, so we'll see if this works. I want profile content to replace I wonder if I wrap this in. Oh, come on. Single quote or double quote, double quote. I want to replace this text. I'm doing some magic with parentheses here. It's PowerShell's picky sometimes. I want to replace using the entire content. Oops, this is not what I wanted. I need that $sign here. Find the section, find this text, which is the original blog paragraph, and just replace the whole paragraph with at, and we'll see if this works. I'm going to get rid of this so it just outputs it. And we'll see if what I break. Well, it didn't actually do it. I wonder if I don't need any of this fluff. Let's send this to be a string here and see if that changes anything. I may have to Google's on this one. Yeah, because I want to replace this whole blob. And this gets me that blob, but this didn't work. So let's close. Section in a string. Top 8 examples. Cool. Examples are fun. Yeah, normally it's like replace one character with a new character if you want to, if there's, like in Markdown, if you wrap a word with asterisks, it bolds the word. Well, I don't, if you don't want that to be interpreted, you have to insert an escape character. So I want to replace asterisk with, slash asterisk, and it escapes that. But that's just like a couple characters at a time. I want to replace, like a whole word or something. But I wonder if I need to set it as a variable ahead of time. And then when I replace, I just call like a single variable, like I interpret it beforehand. What I mean by that is, I'll say section to replace. There. This is the blob of text that I want to replace. So let's get rid of this. Section to replace. Replace with string of ats. And so here I'd actually just use those variables, section to replace. And you have to do this sometimes because inside of replace, maybe PowerShell is picky about what it will evaluate and expand. So if I do that evaluation ahead of time, it's already evaluated and thrown into a single variable. And so then there's no expansion that needs to happen. It's just, paste the string. So I wonder if this works a little better. No, it didn't. I'll have to figure out. Yeah, text. Text is the whole. Let me just replace some of this equals. Profile content equals get content of that file. Here we go. So I've recreated what the script is doing. I've got my profile content. And I want to say section to replace is equal to profile content from ranges 29 through 35. And the reason I'm doing this is so now I can see, get what type this is. This comes back as an object. I want it to be a string. So I'm trying different things here. There's a function called outString. Okay, that makes it a string. Maybe that's what I was doing before. So this replace compares strings, but I gave it an actual object of an array of lines. I didn't transform that into a single string that just happens to span multiple lines, but it's no longer separate objects. It's one string paragraph. So maybe that is all I need there. Let me save this and try again. Nope. Outstring. To replace. Oh, it's still okay. Let me go back to where here. Outstring. Now section to replace is a string. And it's one string. See, it's one block. But before, this is a block, text, which is the whole file. You can see it's 37 items and they all span one line. But I want one chunk of text. So that's what I've done here. This outstring does that. Sometimes this is weird. Do I need quotes on this? How can I test this? Section to replace. I want to say, let's go back to that original select string again. And I want to see if PowerShell can select string. That's the pattern. He doesn't find it. Simple match. How do you match a paragraph? Select string paragraph. They're referencing replace differently, and they're also using string block. I guess I could create my own string block here at quote. I would need to wrap this. Darn it, I always do that. Parenthesis, then dollar. I'd have to wrap this in parentheses and then end that block. Like that. I'll explain that in a sec. It didn't work anyway. Let me paste this. I need to change these. What was it? 29, 35. There, see, it's just a different way to create a string. If I do count, it's still one. It's the same thing. I'm going to change this back to this. It's just another way to take a bunch of strings and literally interpret it as one string, multiple lines. You can define that in PowerShell, but I just use outstring. It does the same exact thing. Stream with no new line. Yeah, there's really no other fancy things we can add to that. What I'm hoping to accomplish before the stream's over is being able to replace this content. I guess if I quit trying to, let's get rid of this. If I quit trying to replace the block and just prove that I can replace a single line. So this will be profile content start index, and that the start index is I'm saying find this string and replace it with ats. That's what I'm seeing if my syntax here is actually working at all. Go back to the script. See, that works. It replaced one string, but apparently as soon as I span it multiple lines, it doesn't like end index. If I save that, it's not going to do it at all. Did not do this before. Wrap this in parentheses. Nope, it's still here. My goal is to just have all this shrink to be a couple of these ats. I wonder if I'd have to replace every line individually. I just loop through each line. But if someone, yeah, there'd be only 8 lines, I guess, if I had my markdown. Just create. I don't know what the output is going to look like, so I don't know for a fact if I can smush all the formatting, whatever box I make it look like. I'll try to look like the original as much as possible. I just don't know if, you know, one line for the box and then one line per user, one line to end the box, however that's going to look. If I'll be able to get away with looping like that. But I guess just to proof of concept, what I would do is, let me cut this out real quick. I would pipe this into for each object so that, again, profile content has 37 objects in it, and it's each line. So if so I'm looping through each line, and I'm saying if $_ is how you reference the current item in the loop. So at the start of this loop, it's line number 1. Hi, Matthew. That's what this represents, is the first object. So I'm going to say if this, I guess I could say match start pattern. No, I would have to just loop through just this section. Start index, end index, because I know what those numbers are. So I know that start index is 29. So I could say, oh, you know what I could do? I could, this will just create an array of numbers. So 29 ... 35. Whoops. 35. It'll just create an array. And if I loop through those, then I can use them like this. So start index, now all that's coming into the pipeline is a number, 29. But I can use that to my advantage because I want to say profile content at 29 matches. Well, then I don't have to match at all. I know exactly that I'm on the correct line. So I would just say profile, content at that index, replace with. This will replace every single line. Wait. Whoops. Yeah, see, that should spit out a number. 35. Profile content at 35. Let's reference it this way. Now, replace. This seems redundant to me. Replace, again, referencing the whole line with replace with. That did it. Now I don't need this anymore. I just replaced those lines. Let me run this again and see what this looks like. I don't want to replace the start and end things. So what I can do is start index +1 is my number. So 30 ... end index -1. Everything in between that. There. So it did not replace. I know we can't see it, but it replaced just these inner lines. It skipped the first line, which is the, blah, blah, blah start, and it skipped the last line, blah, blah, blah. So, okay, I have my loop, and I guess my replace with, I'd have to eventually figure out, whenever I figure out the format of this, I would have to have that whole line of Markdown or HTML or whatever it's going to look like calculated, and replace the old line with this new line if something changed, change the name, change the color, whatever. Whatever it's going to be. But at least now I know I can replace just my blog entry lines. It's 5 blogs, here's 5 lines with ats. So I guess for now, that's a perk. I mean, a plus, that's progress. Let me do. Hello there. Let me replace it with that instead. I'm going to get rid of showing these. So there's some markdown, and I can pipe that into show markdown. Command does not take that input. Maybe I need to do it at the beginning. There's a command, show markdown. Oh, interesting. I think I need to convert from markdown. There we go. And then show markdown. Oh, there needs to be a space here. Markdown doesn't see that. Okay. Now if I run this, PowerShell can render the markdown, so it knows this is a header, for example. And that's basically what I'm trying to do, is paste in code that can be interpreted. Let me make this underscore. And then I can, I don't know, bold the exclamation point. And this will, PowerShell's, there's some bugs here, but anyway, GitHub would then take whatever markdown I'm replacing, and we'd have a top 8 profile section. So for now, this can find whatever pattern. That's a huge perk. The action, once I get Docker figured out, the action needs to pass in the file path of the names. I will have the path to the profile figured out, because the first GitHub action, oops, that's not what I wanted. Here, workflows, blog posts. So I will get the profile README, because this action basically does a git clone into the environment. So in the Docker container that I will create to run this, it will clone your profile, and then poof, there's like I just did in my top 8. I cloned this is what checkout does. So I have that file locally, and I can do local magic to it. So this will just be able to figure out, what repo did I clone? Inside of it is a README. That's the format that GitHub uses to interpret profiles. So that I can hard code in. The only thing I need to provide is, hey, here's my GitHub text file for my top 8. I think in my other workflow. Yeah, you can provide like a local path. So in this action, I'm saying, check out this repository. Run this on Windows. I can change this. It doesn't matter. And then I'm saying run a PowerShell command, which is this. And this is a local reference to the cloned repository in the Docker container. So I know somehow that I'll just have to play with the references, but this just references, hey, in the repository I just cloned, GitHub scripts, run this script. So this is a different workflow that I've written, but it's not in action. This is an action. I just have to call this and poof, it just, it runs a ton of stuff. That's what I'm wanting mine to be. It's an action that people can reference, Matthew J. DeGarmo, my top 8 at master, run it. All the code just comes built in. So that's the goal for this project. I made some progress. There's a few hiccups. I wish I could have played a little bit with Docker today instead, but that didn't work. Not sure why, but we just had to leap into writing some code. So PowerShell is able to parse these files, grab the index numbers, and we've done that. We've found out how to locate the line numbers and the text of the section we're looking for. Now I just have to figure out how to replace just that section, what to replace it with. So hopefully for the next stream, I've got a good game plan for that. I'm not very good with visuals and graphics. I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to piece this layout together. Obviously, the goal would be to be as close to the original MySpace top 8 format, nostalgic MySpace top 8. There's all kinds of examples. It was just a little section like this. GitHub picture, their username, and GitHub doesn't have online, but I could put like your status here. Let me go to the profile. I'm chilling. I got this squirrel. It says chilling. Maybe I could pull that in somehow and just write their status. But this would be the goal, to write it like this. And maybe if you don't have enough, one of them will be Tom. Here's one that shows Tom here. So that's kind of the goal with this, is to make it as close to the original as possible. But we'll see how that goes. So thanks for tuning in. Like I said, on my Twitch, I will eventually post a schedule. I'll stream every Thursday at 2 p.m. Central, or whenever I figure that out, I'll have a schedule posted. But for now, it'll just be ad hoc. I'll start the stream early so people have a chance to get on, and we'll go from there. This is fun. This is something new for me. Started a blog. That was, new. And I'm taking the next step to stream. Hopefully I learn a lot from this, and hopefully I can benefit some other people as well. So thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see y'all's next time. Thanks.